James Gunn knew exactly what people wanted to watch when it comes to the comic book adaptation to live action movies. At least he knew exactly what I wanted to watch. Superman 2025. I made an entire video about this, how great that film was. All right. Obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Great film. Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, one of my freaking favorite shows. Season 2 is on, so I'm not going to give any, hopefully, no spoilers, but really, really good stuff. Here's my issue with season 2: that is shorter. That the episodes are much shorter. Like season 1, nice, decent size episodes, and the dynamics, like the ratio between the conversation and the action in season 1 were it worked. It was balanced. In season 2, it was kind of a little too much talking, even though they're funny as hell. Like conversations in these shows, in that show, is really, really funny, and that's the type of thing that James Gunn does in his movies, right? But except I think there's a couple that it's kind of more serious than comedy. But anyway, Batman. This is why I'm bringing this up, because I think James Gunn should literally direct a Batman movie and make it more like, not Michael Keaton, like the movies after Michael Keaton. What's his name? His really great actor. He's from Ocean's 11, where he had the nipples as Batman, but I'm trying to say more animated. Literally exactly like how you made Superman a little bit lighthearted, funny, but action like that. They should make a Batman, though Batman is the Dark Knight and is supposed to be like dark. I mean, the one they made recently, The Batman with Robert Pattinson, really, really good shit. Probably one of my favorite Batman. No, I'm not gonna say that. It's definitely a top favorite Batman live action movie for sure. But I love the Christian Bale Batman, and the trio, the Dark Knight and the Dark Knight Rises, and those are one of my favorite Batman movies. Anyway, point being is, I would love to watch a Batman movie directed by James Gunn, similar to the Superman movie, like that type of style. I think that would be great. But Peacemaker, honestly, it's crazy because I never heard of him like before as a character in the DC universe. So I never read any comic book that had the Peacemaker in it or anything like that. So the Peacemaker, the fact that he took this character that's essentially, irrelevant in that universe, and made him to a character that I freaking adore with all my heart. Like, it's incredible, honestly. But moving on to something else. What do you think about a post-apocalypse world where there's nothing to drink, like, just like Mad Max, or Waterworld, or whatever other apocalypse where it's mainly a desert? It's like you're living in like a Bedouin, like a nomad. Do you think you will be able to survive in such a world? I mean, obviously, in such a world, such a harsh environment, people will be reduced to, less than civilized. Obviously, we're going to be like barbaric and savages just to survive. But I was just thinking about that because it feels like that's what we're heading towards, and and that's freaking apparent considering that is in the future. I'm just saying it seems like in the near future about how things are going on in the world, especially the war and this terrorist state Israel. And the threat of nuclear war because of their freaking actions, because of this terrorist state. It seems almost inevitable now, and I think the organizers of the world governments are okay with it because they have bunkers. They can survive. They got money to survive in such a scenario. If it does happen, God forbid it does. But if it does happen, they are okay with it, I feel like. And, you think, oh, how can you even think about people like, because rich people are still human beings. Why would they feel okay with billions of people, being executed, like killed? You know what I'm saying? They're still got hearts. They're not monsters or whatever. But that being said, they are. They are. Money just does that to you. I mean, we see what people have in the past. What greed drives them like that. Freaking World War II, World War I. A Stalin. Caesar. I don't know, Pharaoh and the slaves and blah, 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 blah. There's so many examples of rich people being total dickheads. I mean, there's no, it's not an outlandish idea. It happens. It can happen. And like I said, I was just watching this movie, The Great Wall, right? It's a Great Wall. It's ancient times where, mainly in China, obviously, because of the Great Wall, the name of the title of the movie kind of gives it all. Anyway, it's based in China and it's ancient China, and they're like killing and fighting off these monsters that just came out of nowhere, like under the ground and shit. And the reason I bring this particular movie, because obviously, it's like in ancient times, whatever. The reason I bring it up is because there's this idea. Well, not an idea; it's a fact within the Islamic theology that there's these creatures that will emerge from this barrier. They're now sealed in this barrier that was created by a great king. A God-fearing king, right? And he buried these two tribes by the name of Yajuj and Majuj. You might know them as Gog and Magog, but when it comes to the biblical context of that, it's kind of debated, like interpreted differently than when it comes to the Islamic narrative of these two tribes. Because in the biblical Christian narrative is more like Gog is like this king who's against God, and he's the leader of this land called Magog. But when it comes to the Islamic narrative, there's two tribes by the name of Gog and Magog, Yajuj and Majuj, and they kind of related, right? They are related. They're kins. And they're like deformed, and there's like ideas like how they look. For example, people describe them as having long ears, and they cover themselves with their ears and their earlobe, and that's how they go to sleep, whatever the fuck. Anyway, I think they're just Neanderthals. I think they're evolved Neanderthals, like to a certain extent, like they're capable of manufacturing tools to kill people. And they're monsters, and they have, 10 times the strength of, regular human beings like you and I, right? And they eat and kill, and they're just like Vikings from ancient times, like they're just monsters, just going and just pillaging and killing people, and which led to them being buried under this structure that was created by this great king, right? And the idea is that these creatures will one day be able to break through this barrier, which I think, and this is just a theory, that this barrier is more like a highly intelligent, technological, advanced technology created by this king and his people, even though it was in ancient times. So how advanced is it really? But I'm saying they were advanced. That somehow, because of this world goes through this cycle of burying the old and bringing the new, and we kind of restart when it comes to intelligence, right? That's what I feel about that. And anyway, this barrier is in fact a barrier to another dimension, that they're trapped in this other dimension, and they're trying to get through to us so they can, conquer this entire world, which they will eventually. And that is the Islamic narrative, that during the end of times, this is one of the things that will happen. In fact, this is the last thing that will happen, is that these monsters will reproduce rapidly, more like rabbits, like more than any human being. In fact, and again, another theory of mine is that their birth cycle is shorter than ours. This is why they're capable of producing much more offsprings than normal human beings can. And they're gonna just go throughout the world and just kill and eat and even drink all the fresh water, and it's gonna be horrible. But God forbid that happens. Anyway, the fact that this Israeli terrorist state is doing all the shit they're doing right now is because they're trying to achieve the coming of the Antichrist, right? Their king, who they believe is the Messiah, but we know Jesus Christ is the Messiah. He already came. So that is why they're killing a bunch of people, and they're trying to make basically make the way for this so-called Messiah, who's really the Antichrist, the Dajjal is what we call him in the Arabic language, and the Dajjal is a word meaning liar, deceiver, right? And this is why also that the world is the way it is, that people who are in fact telling the truth are considered the liars, and people who are liars are the people that people trust for some reason. And that's exactly what is this world now, you know? Anyway, it would be a great thing if James Gunn makes a Batman movie. I would love to watch it with a different villain this time. You know, it was great that they brought Bane back in The Dark Knight Rises. You know, Joker, obviously one of the greatest villains in all comic history. But I would love to see him fight off another villain. And you know, and maybe Mr. Freeze, yeah, Mr. Freeze might, you know, maybe not bring Arnold Schwarzenegger to you know, for that role, but you know, yeah, Mr. Freeze would be a great idea for a villain, I think, or make another, you know, a movie like, you know, Batman underneath the Red Hood. I forgot the title of that movie, the animation movie with, you know, obviously Jason Todd, but instead of Batman being the main focus of that movie, like focus on Jason Todd, how he got killed, how he was, you know, dipped in the Lazarus water thing, whatever lake, and you know, everything after that, like how he managed to kill and take control of all the gangs in Gotham or whatever. I would love to see a movie like that, directed by James Gunn. What is this video all about? Why did they even make this video? Anyway, it was something to do, I guess, and something to upload. Hope you like it. Please subscribe. Peace out. Peacemaker.